The impact of a changing world on human language and communication. A recent research of the impact of online communication across cultures in Europe has revealed some very interesting findings. Although social networking and online communication has become the norm among young people nowadays, the formation of lasting friendships among peers appears to require face-to-face communication. The project involved communication with partner schools in different countries. According to project participants, online communication and information exchange was effective for a period of time and undoubtedly provided the input and information needed. However, when it came to the formation of long-term friendships, they strongly felt that face-to-face communication was a key requirement, as was mobility, in other words, travel to different countries. The way one of the participants put it, "It's different to find out about each other's culture through reading, talking about it, and exchanging pictures or videos, and different to actually experience it in person. It's the day-to-day things that tell you more about people and their mindset." These conclusions were reached after participants visited the countries where partner schools were located. As funding was limited, not all project participants were able to join. All interviewees appreciated the accessible and affordable opportunities offered through technology and online communication, but stressed the need for communication beyond cyberspace. Interestingly, young people nowadays take cyberspace for granted and consider more conventional, real-world experiences more creative and rewarding. Overall, the conclusion reached pointed out that although technology connects people, lasting friendships require face-to-face contact to make initial connections more meaningful. This was further confirmed by the diminishing interest and involvement of the participants that had not been able to travel. As expected, English was used as the common medium of communication. Project participants admitted to having been intimidated and reluctant to initiate conversation due to their language inadequacies. They soon found out that none of their peers from other countries were perfect either, but were only too willing to utilize all available resources to speak. So they quickly revised their views on language competence and stopped being over-concerned with potential errors. The task at hand required them to communicate with people that they had previously communicated with through email and video conferencing, under more controlled circumstances with teacher support, and time to check and edit their language. Face-to-face communication had to be spontaneous and genuine, so they were required to do their best, to listen, understand, and ask for clarification or repetition, use gestures or point to things if they could not recall words, and so on. More importantly, their peers from other countries routinely resorted to the same strategies in conversation. On occasion, when lost for words, their interlocutors would say, "Text me." This they could do without difficulty, using abbreviated language. They would then use the text message as a basis to clarify meaning. Abbreviated language, this special kind of electronic shorthand, which often confuses older adults, is accessible to young people. In fact, it is the electronic variety of English as an international medium and an identifying marker of generations that are natives to technology. The context and means of communication do have an immediate impact on the type of language used. The need for speedy and highly economic messaging has fostered the development and evolution of texting language. Abbreviated language is regarded as a type of slang, categorizing it to substandard varieties of language. On the other hand, some analysts attest to the fact that it indicates high intelligence and speed of processing that should not be overlooked. According to Professor Crystal, text speak, the combination of vowel-free abbreviations and acronyms, has definitely been overhyped and does not qualify as a new language. When these issues were addressed in a focus group with high school students who had participated in the multicultural project, they were ready with clear and highly articulate answers. They agreed that context and circumstances imposed the need for changes in communication, and therefore the type of language used. They were pleased to be able to use abbreviated language in texting and messaging effectively and efficiently. However, they pointed out that they would very much like to develop their language and communication skills further in order to be able to operate in a different range of contexts. As one of the interviewees put it, "It wouldn't be a good idea to use abbreviated language in term papers when I get to university."
Phobias. Nothing to fear. John Dixon was walking down the street with his friend Len when a cute, friendly little squirrel ran over to them. Len knelt down and gave it a nut, but John froze and backed away in terror. Although the squirrel was clearly not a threat, John felt so terrified that his heart began pounding. He broke out in a cold sweat, and he felt like he was about to faint. Why did John have such an extreme reaction to such a harmless animal? John has a phobia of animals. A phobia is an intense, irrational fear of a specific situation, activity, or thing that, in actuality, doesn't pose any true danger. People with phobias have a feeling of uncontrollable anxiety when they are exposed to the source of their phobia. This psychological reaction causes many physical symptoms. Some symptoms include shaking, rapid heartbeat, difficulty breathing, sweating, chest pains, dizziness, and a feeling of overwhelming anxiety. When a person has such physical reactions to something they fear, they are said to be having a panic attack. People with phobias feel such great distress when they encounter the thing they fear that they go out of their way to avoid such an encounter. People with phobias often know that their fears are irrational, but feel completely unable to control their fears. Sometimes a phobia has only a minimal impact on a sufferer's life. For example, Janet Accra has a paralyzing fear of spiders, arachnophobia. However, as long as she avoids going into woodsy or grassy areas, she is generally able to avoid seeing them. Some phobias, however, can prevent sufferers from participating in normal, everyday activities. These kinds of phobias can have a devastating impact on the sufferer's life. For example, after being in a car accident, George Ramirez developed acophobia, a fear of riding in vehicles. After that, the only way George could get from one place to another was to walk. And since his college was 20 miles, 32 kilometers away, too far to walk, George dropped out. There are hundreds of different kinds of phobias, but only a handful are very common. One of these phobias is the fear of heights, acrophobia. People with this fear are unable to look out the window of a tall building without feeling a panic attack coming on. Another common phobia is the fear of being in confined spaces, claustrophobia. People with claustrophobia commonly feel trapped when they are in small, enclosed places like elevators, tunnels, or closets. On the other hand, people who suffer from agoraphobia fear being in large, wide-open spaces, or places where leaving would be difficult. Agoraphobics generally avoid places like shopping malls, stadiums, and other crowded places. Some people develop such intense agoraphobia that they are not able to leave their homes for years. In addition to the more common phobias, there are dozens of unusual, little-known phobias, such as the fear of clowns, coulrophobia. Fear of taking a bath or shower, ablutophobia. And a fear of trees, dendrophobia. In fact, there is even a fear of phobias, phobophobia. Although no one knows for sure how phobias develop, some researchers believe that phobias are passed from parents to children in one of two ways, either by inheriting the gene for a phobia or by observing a parent's phobic reaction to something and learning to react in the same way. Another possibility is that phobias are a reaction to something frightening a person may have previously experienced. For example, John Dickson could have developed his fear of animals, zoophobia, when, as a child, he saw an animal bite another child. However, there are treatments that can help people with phobias. While some people take medication to alleviate their phobias, many others go to counseling where they learn techniques to overcome their phobias permanently. For example, learning simple relaxation exercises can help people feel more in control when confronted with feared objects and situations. People can also be taught to overcome their fear through gradual exposure to it. For example, a person with a fear of heights might be encouraged to imagine being in a tall building. Once capable of doing this without having a panic attack, the person might be brought into the ground floor of a tall building. After becoming comfortable there, the person would be brought to the second floor. Eventually, the phobic person would reach the top floor of the building and the end of their fear. There is a Japanese proverb that says, "Fear is only as deep as the imagination allows." People who have learned to overcome phobias understand how true this is.